Hey guys, welcome back to DCS World. I'm Spudknocker, as always, and today I have the privilege of showing off the new MiG-19P, NATO codename Farmer-B from RAZBAM. As always, please do keep in mind that this aircraft is a work in progress, but will be very, very close to a fully complete module upon release later this month. Also keep in mind that my flying in the Farmer-B is also very much a work in progress. So hopefully I don't embarrass myself too much in this video. In this video, we are going to join the 4477th Test and Evaluation Squadron at the Tonopah Test Range Airfield under the guise of Operation Constant Peg to evaluate the MiG-19P and run her through a series of testing regimens to find out what she is capable of. So, without further ado, let's hop onto the NTTR and get started. Alrighty, welcome to the Tonopah Test Range Airfield and the 4477th Test and Evaluation Squadron. We can see we have a MiG-19 in front of us, but if you ask these MPs guarding this very top secret program, they would tell you it's a YF-113 weather balloon. And if you're not supposed to be on this ramp, man, they have orders to shoot to kill. That is for sure. What RAZBAM has brought to us is the P variant of the MiG-19, the second major variant to be produced, and the first interceptor variant with the RP-1 Izumrud radar, with provisions for the AA-2 ATOL air-to-air missiles, as well as provisions for unguided rocket packs, and the FAB series of general-purpose bombs. We can see that RAZBAM has really gone the extra mile when it comes to the textures and modeling of the MiG-19. The jet looks like it was hammered and riveted together at a Soviet factory and then delivered to and used by a third world air force, such as this Cuban example we have in front of us. It's a tough and mean-looking aircraft that has really received a staggering amount of work and love on every inch of her from the RAZBAM team. And it really couldn't look any better. The aluminum skin and the reflectiveness of it is just amazing to look at. And it's one of the best things in any PC game. And of course, the cockpit is really no exception. I think it looks fantastic, but new cockpit textures are being worked on by RAZBAM and will be released shortly after the MiG-19 is released to the public. We can see this is very much a Soviet cockpit with switches for circuit breakers for just about every single system you could think of in the aircraft. And without any further ado, let's go ahead and take her for a spin. For anyone familiar with Russian aircraft and the differential braking, the ground procedures will be immediately familiar. I feel she's actually easier to taxi and smoother to taxi than both the L-39 and the MiG-21. Just make sure you watch your speed, as it's very easy to get going too fast on the taxiways, especially as you're trying to build up speed to use that differential braking system to get around a corner. She's an inherently very stable aircraft, being a second-generation fighter, and as a result, takeoff is a dream. Just a little bit of nose up trim and some gentle back pressure on the stick and take off flaps, and she flies off the runway no problem thanks to the two powerful RD9 afterburning turbojets. One thing that immediately struck me was the afterburner effects and the way it throws light and color across the reflective skin of the jet. So make sure you keep an eye out on the wings for that reflective color of the afterburner as we go through the video. So we'll go ahead and transition into our testing regimen with some aerobatics for the CO of the 4477th over Tonopah Airfield. Of course, we couldn't fly a Cuban MiG-19 without doing a Cuban 8. Farmer, even with the engines pulled back and idle, in nose down, definitely falls like a rock. So make sure to keep that in mind when performing aerobatics or in a BFM situation close to the deck. So we'll come back over the top on the second loop for that Cuban 8. And as you can see here, in fast rolling maneuvers, you can see that the nose tends to yaw to one side or the other. However, rudder inputs do not induce roll in this aircraft. So we'll fly out and we will reposition for the next maneuver. As you'll see in the hesitation roll, the aircraft has a very nice roll rate, but it likes to keep that roll going, even when the stick is recentered. So roll can be a little bit sticky with your stick. I recommend having a bit of a dead zone applied to your stick, as well as just keep that in mind as a flight characteristic of the aircraft, especially if doing rolling maneuvers in conjunction with other aircraft in formation. Looks like our cameraman is kind of failing us on the ground. So we'll go ahead and reposition again for a maximum sustained turn over the northern end of the Tonopah Airfield runway. Alrighty, and here we go, pulling into that hard turn. Afterburner's lit. Pulling hard, pulling hard. Pushing the aircraft all the way to the edge of the envelope. As you can see, when we reach the cusp of a stall, we tend to get a wing drop. Make sure you keep this in mind, you're anticipating this when you're flying close to the edge of the envelope, or you can find yourself into a very bad situation. It's a very similar behavior characteristic to World War II aircraft in DCS. So we'll wave goodbye with our wings to the CO, and we'll go ahead and head out to the range. We'll make sure our weapon systems are set and ready to go. Got a nice little set of targets out on range 74 Bravo for us. A couple old trucks that we don't need anymore. Put our radar into standby. In the aerobatic arena, I feel the MiG-19 feels very much like a faster L-39 or a zippier, more maneuverable F-5. The MiG-19 is rather famous for its role in many Cold War engagements, but in the West, I think it tends to go relatively unknown to many aviation enthusiasts, and I believe this is due to the NVAF's preference for the MiG-17 Fresco and MiG-21 Fishbed over the MiG-19 or the Chinese-built J-6s they received. This is due to the MiG-19 being rather a maintenance hog in comparison to the MiG-17. One particularly notable incident that involved MiG-19s, or at least Chinese-built J-6s, occurred over the Straits of Taiwan when AIM-9B armed Republic of China Air Force F-86s engaged PLAAF J-6s. One J-6 was struck with a Sidewinder, but the warhead failed to detonate and actually embedded itself into the tail of the MiG. In a rather remarkable feat of airmanship, the J-6 pilot flew his aircraft home and landed with a prized intelligence coup stuck in the tail of his aircraft. Just mere months later, the Chinese and Soviets would debut their R-3S or AA-2 ATOL missile, which we can see on the wing of the aircraft here. And we can see range 74 Bravo in front of us with a nice blue smoke marker denoting the position of those trucks. And we'll get our jet set up for those rocket runs. Double check everything's in order and ready to go. Position the jet. And we can see those trucks down there, the little formation. And rolling in. And we can see the color of the ground reflecting off of that shiny aluminum skin of the aircraft. And in this view, we can see the rather fat nature of the vertical stabilizer on the MiG-19. That was a feature that a lot of people noticed in the original photos of the MiG-19 model that RAZBAM posted on their Facebook page. I have not been able to research and find anything that has an explanation of why the vertical stabilizer is so fat on this aircraft. So if anyone could sound off in the comments if they know, that would be fantastic. One thing to keep in mind is the rocket packs on the MiG-19 are extremely low velocity and are very small rockets and are ineffective on even the lightest of armored targets and at the closest of ranges. You're going to want to be going more for trucks with potential for secondaries, ammunition trucks, fuel trucks, aircraft parked in the open, as well as infantry formations in the open. So we'll pull off our target and move on to our next evaluation phase. BFM against a F-5E Tiger II, flown by a fighter weapons instructor, taking part in Operation Constant Peg. Okay, so we've got our ISM-RED radar turned on. This radar is really only effective out to 10 nautical miles at most. The weapon select knob on the left-hand side of the cockpit underneath the radar controls will be a big liability for DCS MiG pilots. Because we cannot simply just feel around the cockpit for the knob, we have to actually look down, find it, and then click on it. MiG-19 pilots in real life could simply just memorize where that knob is and its positions and then flick it with their left hand. However, like I said, we have to actually look down at it. So we're maneuvering towards that F5. We picked him up on radar, and here's a good look at the radar screen. We only picked him up when he was about 4 nautical miles away, and we're flying in towards the merge now. And merged. So he's going up into the vertical. I'm staying in the horizontal for the most part, playing to the strengths of our individual aircraft. Pulling around hard, pulling some G's. Trying to get our nose on each other. And we're going to go ahead and go for a snapshot. And we can see that the NR-30 30mm cannons fire in bursts due to the low ammunition count, as well as its loading via large stripper clips. We're pulling in hard, going into a bit of a vertical scissors. We're pulling really hard, bleeding airspeed, but trying to get around as quickly as possible to get an advantage. And you can see me almost get a wing drop here as I push the flight envelope right to the edge, but I backed off on the G's before this could occur and get me into a rather sticky situation. Alrighty, looks like we're starting to get the advantage on him. And watch out for the mountain spud. Hee-haw. Alrighty, I got you now. Another quick snapshot, another miss. Alright, going in for a tracking gun skill. And there's a hit. Splash 1 F5E. Whoa, look out. Now, something interesting to note. With the guns in the Farmer, you see a very different philosophy than in the West in the mid to late 1950s when it was designed. The West was developing the M61 Vulcan cannon for the F-104 Starfighter with a smaller caliber shell but a much higher volume of fire, while the East went for a larger caliber for a higher killing potential against high-flying bombers like the B-52, but a lower volume of fire. So an interesting difference there. The West was going for targets being a maneuvering target, whereas the East was looking more for interceptors for large bombers flying into the Soviet Union. Now, the MiG-19 is extremely easy to land, much easier than the MiG-21, and I would even say maybe easier than the L-39. You've got very short, very tough landing gear made for unimproved landing surfaces in third world countries and Warsaw Pact nations, as well as far-flung Siberian interceptor air bases. And we can hear those RD-9s spinning up and spinning down as I apply and take away power on our nice straight-in approach to Tonopah Airfield. And we can see that very nice modeling of the landing gear, as well as the geared doors. Approaching the runway here, adding a little bit power, sinking a little bit too much. A bit of a hard landing, but any landing you can walk away from, right? And of course, we've got a drag chute to slow us down. I think if we didn't have that, we'd be in the next county, probably somewhere in Oregon, before we actually slowed down. In conclusion, RAZBAM has done a fantastic job on this rather obscure Cold War MiG, which is sometimes overshadowed by its older brothers, the MiG-15 and the MiG-17 Fresco, as well as its younger brother, the MiG-21 Fishbed. It is a ruggedly simple aircraft that is a blast to fly, and I think anyone who is into Cold War aircraft, or just a very fun aircraft to fly, will very much enjoy this module. So, thanks a lot for watching, guys. I appreciate it, and I know RAZBAM will appreciate it. And if you liked the video, please give me a like and a subscribe. And remember to fly safe and enjoy this awesome product, DCS World.